If you're watching this, it means you've accepted a position at Spartan Solar. If you've never done sales in your life before, or the door-to-door solar space is new to you, then I congratulate you on accepting what will likely be the most financially lucrative position of your lifetime. For those who have done this before and you're coming from another organization, congrats on the pay raise. Here at Spartan, we do things a little bit differently. And during this new hire orientation suite together, we're going to cover all of the ground that makes Spartan a special organization and what sets solar sales apart from the rest of the industry. For those who are brand new to this, I hope to prepare you amply to do the job properly. And if by the end of this new hire orientation suite, you determine that this role isn't for you, you have every privilege and right to bow out before you begin your tenure here, because we get that this isn't for everybody. But for those who are called to the highest standard, who are ready to accept the responsibility they need in order to live the life they've always talked about, we're ready for you. Welcome to Spartan University. My name is Tyler Ryan, and I'm the Creative Director and Executive Trainer here at Spartan Solar. In this new hire orientation suite, we'll get to know each other fairly well, and I'll walk you through everything I think it takes to understand what your role will be here at Spartan, starting with the first chapter titled Introduction to Sales. If you've done sales before or have prior experience in door-to-door solar, you may be inclined to check out mentally from this section. But we've noticed that those who are even the best in our ranks often end up resenting the job or lacking in production as a consequence of forgetting the core principles that we'll go over in this section. So consider the review mandatory. For those who haven't done this before and don't really know what you're getting yourself into, I hope to equip you with the knowledge necessary to understand what the role of sales is and ultimately what you'll be doing with that responsibility here at Spartan. Sales is one of mankind's most lucrative and ancient professions. You can date the art of selling all the way back to our caveman ancestors who had to exchange resources and broker peace using selling tactics. Today, you manifest sales in all sorts of ways you probably don't even realize, like selling a loved one on going and get that health condition checked up even though they're inclined to neglect it. Selling your boss on giving you a much-deserved raise, or selling a love interest on spending some extra time together. Sales is baked into the human experience. It's inextricable from everyday interactions. And that leads me to my first key point. Selling isn't bad. That sort of position may come as a shock to many, considering our current cultural position fed to us by the media that salespeople are bad people. They point to examples like the telemarketer from a faraway country who peddles a product that isn't quite real over the phones to the elderly people here in order to scam them out of their Social Security benefits, or the used car salesman who sells a car that's really a hunk of junk to some kid who doesn't know any better in order to collect a fat commission, something we'll talk about later. These examples are real. Of course, there are people who can exploit sales like any other human enterprise for their own personal gain, but that doesn't really tell the whole story. If I may, a personal example of my own life. For 2 summers, I spent the majority of the May, June, July, August months with my father up in a mid-Pennsylvania rehabilitation facility known as Teen Challenge. It was for drug addicts. My goal, my job, was to sell rehab to heroin addicts. Not an easy enterprise, I promise. Much harder than selling solar to a homeowner. But I think you'll be hard-pressed to find a more virtuous example of an enterprise that's built on serving others, connecting a product, service that people need in order to survive, the rehab, to the person who needs it most, the addict. At its core, selling is nothing more than that. It's connecting products, ideas, and services to the people who need them the most. When done with integrity, selling is virtuous. That personal story serves as the perfect segue into the next section I'd like to title, Barriers to Entry for Success. As we continue through this new hire orientation suite, we're going to take quick stops at certain checkpoints in order to evaluate some of the key fundamental principles of our organization, Spartan. And if you can't align yourself with those properly, then this job may not be for you. The first of these barriers to entry is in keeping with what we just talked about. You see, there are a couple ways to do sales. One where you work honestly and transparently to serve somebody who needs it with a product that will better their lives, and the other where you manipulate and use underhanded tricks in order to take advantage of people for your own personal gain. Solar is no exception to the dual paradigm there. If you have any experience in this industry or have heard some of the horror stories, you're probably familiar with people who have gotten more than one electric bill. They're left paying for the utility like they were in the first place, and now they have a solar bill to pay for too. This is because the product wasn't rendered properly at the point of sale. If you are geared towards doing that sort of thing for yourself, and you want to come to this organization in order to use its platform for your own personal gain, with no regard to the people that you hurt in the process, then this organization will have no space for you.
This is Sparta!
I understand that that sort of thing is mostly geared towards those who have done this before or have experience in the industry. But if you're brand new, that also applies to you, and so does this. If you're like us and place service paramount as the priority for this operation, then you'll be in agreement that you can get whatever you'd want in life so long as you help enough people. That is something we believe. An interesting point to note, and you can ask any good salesperson you know this question, they'll affirm the idea, is because sales is so deeply tied to everyday life, as you become better at the job of selling, you also become better at living a meaningful and fruitful life, getting the things that you want out of life. Because these skills that you use to make money every day are also the same ones that are completely transferable to selling people you love on products, services, and ideas that you endorse. How much better would your life be if people believed and trusted in everything that you said? Continuing on, we'll cover the compensation model and structure for pay here at Spartan, and in the greater solar and sales enterprise at large. You see, there are 3 ways that you can get paid typically for doing any job. The first is hourly, so based on the amount of time that you spend doing it. The second is a salary, based on just having the role and fulfilling it for a certain allotted amount of time. Both of these have a cap on how much you can make during any given amount of time, typically. There are only so many hours in a day that you can work, and if you want to raise in a salaried position, you got to talk to some people in order to make it happen. But the third doesn't have a cap, and it's a different way of getting paid. That's called a commission. This is the type of money that salespeople make. When they sell a product properly or administer a service as intended, they get a slice of the proceeds that would go to the organization that proprieted it. And so a salesperson who sells a product gets to take some of that profit home. Here at Spartan, an example. If a salesperson were to go out and sell a home, a solar system that allots them something like $4,000 or $5,000 at install, the sort of money we can expect to see at least when it comes to selling a solar system, then when that system goes on the roof, they will take that money home, no questions asked. The company already made its slice of the pie, and the commission is totaling $4,000 or $5,000 for 1 week of work to one rep. That sort of money we see all the time. Here at Spartan, we celebrate bigger and bigger checks. But it does lead to a question. Will pay always be that good? You see, because a commission works based on how effective you've been, if you're ineffective for a given period of time, you won't take home a commission. You won't have a paycheck. So, $5,000 in a week sounds great, but what happens some of the other weeks? If you're the type of person who can't contend with an irregular pay, then solar may not be the space for you, because you will have times where you're not seeing a check. However, if you can put your head down and do the work regardless of consequences, consistently, putting forward the effort, the time, and the skills necessary to get great at this craft, you're going to find yourself with more money than you'll know what to do with. There is no limit to how much you can make. And some of the checks we see here are big. That'll about wrap up everything we'll cover in this first introduction. So, a brief recap. Remember, selling is deeply tied to basic human interaction, and it's inextricable from the human experience. Given that, it's useful as a skill to hone and properly craft as you continue the job. That also leads to the second point that it's not a bad thing whatsoever. In fact, if you do it with integrity, you do it honestly, rendering a service to the people who need that service is quite virtuous. And finally, there's no limit to the amount of money that you can make selling anything, so long as your commission isn't capped. And here at Spartan, it isn't. That leads to a little caveat though, and like I mentioned earlier, we did cover 2, I think, barriers to success for this field of solar at Spartan. The first is if you're going to work without integrity and you intend to exploit the platform for personal gain, you will not find any form of success here at Spartan. You'll be weeded out pretty quickly. We believe in service first, and we're here to help people. The second is that if you can't contend with an irregularity of pay, given the fact that there may be times where you're going to be making more or less than other times throughout the year, then this job may not be for you. We've actually seen quite a pool of incredible talent relegate themselves to a lower paying job simply because they knew how much money they were going to make at the end of the week. It begs the question though, how much did that comfort cost them? To wrap up then, a quick homework assignment. Think of something that you quite like, that you endorse, that you would put others onto. Then think of someone in your life whom you care about, whose life would be better by that product, idea, or service. Finally, go out to them and try to connect them with it. Sell them on the idea that you proprietate. It could be a product that you like. It could be a service that you've used before that was useful. Connect a person in your life who needs it to that product. See how it feels. After all, if you do care about them, they deserve to know about it, right? Give that a shot, and I'll see you in the next section.